Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty intense today. How do we actually deal with shocking moments, those big curveballs that come out of nowhere? We've got a fascinating conversation as our source material. Entrepreneur Stephen Bartlett sat down with Dr. Arya, a high-performance coach, and, well, let's just say things got real.
Yeah, really real. See, Stephen usually focuses on like success and mindset, but he had Dr. Arya on a previous episode where they went pretty deep on relationships, infidelity, the whole monogamy thing.
Oh, wow. So, like, they set the stage without even knowing it.
It's wild, right? Because 2 weeks before this new interview, Dr. Arya discovers his wife has not only been unfaithful, but she's pregnant with another man's child.
Whoa, how would you even begin to process that?
Most people, I think, would be spiraling, but Dr. Arya's response is what's so remarkable.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, that's the kind of thing that would send me, I don't know, into orbit or something.
Right, but he's calm almost, sad more than anything.
So how is that even possible?
Yeah. He talks about this feeling of loss, like everything he knew was gone. Poof. His wife, their future plans, the house, even their dog. It's like this complete shattering of his world.
But even then, he's got this, like, Zen-like calm about him.
He uses this great analogy, being in the stillest part of the hurricane.
That's a powerful image.
It is, right, like life is swirling around him, totally chaotic, but he's found this inner peace, this way to observe his emotions without being totally swept away by them.
Okay, but how does someone actually do that? Like, cultivate that kind of resilience, especially after such a betrayal?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. He's obviously worked on himself a lot, but he outlines this 3-step process he used in this situation.
Okay, because that's the kind of practical advice I think a lot of us are looking for. What's step one? Give us the goods.
Step 1 is awareness and acceptance. He talks about acknowledging the emotions, the pain, the hurt, everything, and not pushing them away.
So not trying to pretend it's not happening.
Exactly. Letting yourself feel it all, even the really tough stuff. He even mentions intense crying, like that was part of it for him.
Makes sense, I guess. If you try and bottle it up, it'll just kind of explode later or something.
Totally. It's acknowledging the reality of what's happening and the full range of emotions that come with it.
Okay, so you've acknowledged the pain, the hurt, even the anger. Then what?
He calls step 2 reminding himself of reality, and this is where it gets even more interesting.
What do you mean?
It's about breaking down that old model of his marriage, the future they had planned, and accepting this new truth, even though it hurts. He even used written reminders on his phone.
Wow, would that make it worse? To keep reminding yourself of what you've lost.
You'd think so, but he says clinging to the past, to that old story, that's what keeps us trapped in suffering. By reminding himself of this new reality, no matter how painful, he's breaking free.
It's almost like ripping off a Band-Aid, right?
Yeah.
It stings, but then the healing can start.
Perfect analogy. And that leads to step 3, which I think is the most powerful.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
What is it?
Forgiveness.
Oh, wow. That's a lot to ask, especially in this kind of situation.
It is. But he forgave not only his wife, but her lover as well, even though he didn't know him.
Wait, he forgave the other guy too? That's incredible.
Yeah.
And incredibly hard, I'd imagine.
Yeah, he says that part was the hardest. It took him weeks, like training for a mental marathon. He describes it as traveling light, without all that emotional baggage.
I get that. Holding on to anger, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But easier said than done, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But he makes the point that forgiveness isn't about saying what they did was okay. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of it.
Right. So it's almost like an act of self-care.
Exactly.
Mm.
And this is where things take an even more fascinating turn. He starts questioning some pretty big societal norms like monogamy and marriage. Hold on, before we go there, I think it's worth pausing for a minute and letting all this sink in. This idea of forgiveness, choosing to let go, it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's not easy, but it reminds us that even in the face of these huge shocks, we still have a choice in how we respond.
And that choice can either trap us or set us free.
Very well said. Now, I'm dying to hear about this perspective on monogamy. How does that fit into all of this?
It's funny because even after all that, even after this betrayal, he still seems to favor monogamy.
Really? That's wild. You'd think he'd be questioning the whole thing, right?
He does acknowledge that traditional monogamy, like how it's usually practiced, can get stale. He's big on keeping the spark alive,
Yeah.
That physical intimacy, the excitement, that stuff that tends to fade in long-term relationships.
Right. So it's not about ditching monogamy altogether. It's about being more conscious about it.
Exactly. He even uses this, well, it's kind of a playful phrase, a lady in the streets and a freak in the bed.
Okay, I was not expecting that. But I see his point. It's about embracing both sides.
Yeah, bringing your whole self to the relationship and not losing those essential parts of who you are. And this ties back to what he said earlier about losing himself in the marriage, becoming this like sanitized version of himself.
So he's advocating for what? Like a conscious monogamy, where
Yeah.
you're both actively working to keep things fresh and allowing each other to be their true selves.
Exactly. And for him, part of that is needing space, adventure. He talks about enjoying living alone, traveling, exploring new things.
I get that. But doesn't that bring up a whole other challenge? Like, how do you balance that need for freedom with the committed partnership?
It's tricky, no doubt, and he doesn't claim to have all the answers. But he does challenge this idea that monogamy and freedom are like opposites.
So he's not saying go have an open relationship.
Not at all. He seems to think there's a way to structure things that honor both individual needs and the commitment to the relationship.
Okay, but what does that even look like? Did he give any examples?
He doesn't get into specifics, but he does shift the perspective on how we view relationships in general. He suggests that a lot of people chase those external markers of happiness, like marriage, kids, money, without really understanding what emotional needs they're actually trying to meet.
I think I see where you're going with this. So
Yeah.
it's not about following some predefined script for a successful relationship. It's about figuring out what truly brings you joy and building a relationship that supports that.
Yes. He asks these really interesting questions. What do I think I need to be happy? And then what will that thing actually give me? It's about digging deeper, figuring out those core emotional needs, connection, belonging, security, and finding more authentic ways to satisfy them.
That's a really cool way to think about it. Instead of looking outward for validation, you're looking inward and asking, like, what do I truly desire?
And then having the guts to create a life that reflects that, even if it means breaking away from what society expects.
It takes courage, though, right?
Mhm.
Especially with relationships. There's so much pressure to conform.
Absolutely.
Well,
But both Dr. Uriah and Stephen Bartlett are living proof that it's possible, that you can have a life that's fulfilling and authentic on your own terms. And that's a powerful message, especially for anyone dealing with the aftermath of a shocking moment.
like they're saying, look, life's going to throw you curveballs, but those experiences don't have to define you. You can learn from them, grow, and create something even better on the other side.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And this brings us to one of Dr. Uriah's most impactful statements. The universe is unfolding as it should.
I love that. It's about trusting the process, even when things feel chaotic.
Right, and remembering that sometimes those shocking moments, the ones that really shake us, they're actually pushing us to grow and transform.
It's like they force us to reevaluate everything, to create a life that's more true to ourselves.
Exactly. Which brings us to a question for you, the listener. How can we cultivate that trust in the universe, that feeling that all is well, even when we're blindsided by the unexpected?
Because let's face it, when those moments hit, that's usually the last thing on our minds, right?
It takes practice.
Yeah.
It's learning to go with the flow, trusting that even the tough stuff is part of a bigger journey, that it's leading us where we need to be.
That's a comforting thought, especially in the middle of the storm. But it also takes faith, right? Faith in something bigger, faith that there's a reason, even if we don't see it at the time.
Absolutely. And that faith, that trust, it's often what allows us to move through those challenges with grace and resilience, to come out stronger on the other side.
So it's not just about surviving those moments, it's about using them to thrive.
Exactly. It's about using those experiences to learn, to grow, to become the best version of yourself.
Wow, this is all so thought-provoking. I'm already feeling inspired to look at my own life, to see where I might be holding on to old scripts or limiting beliefs, and to ask myself, what truly brings me joy? What do I want my life to be, regardless of what anyone else thinks?
That's the beauty of these deep dives. They challenge us to question our assumptions, to create a life that's authentic and fulfilling.
So well said. And Dr. Arya's story is such a powerful reminder that even the most shocking moments can lead to incredible growth and transformation if we let them.
Absolutely. And sometimes those unexpected curveballs are exactly what we need to wake us up and point us in the right direction.
Okay, this conversation has given me a lot to think about. I'm definitely going to be chewing on some of these insights for a while. But before we wrap up, you mentioned earlier that there was this, like, final provocative thought that came up while we were prepping for this. Something to leave our listeners with a question to ponder.
Oh, yes. Remember how Dr. Arya talked about needing space, adventure, even mentioned buying a motorcycle?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, it got us thinking. Is there like a connection between these shocking moments and a desire for more freedom?
Oh, that's interesting. Like once your world gets flipped upside down, you realize how much is actually outside your control. And maybe that sparks the need to break free from other things too.
Right. And those can be external things like societal expectations or routines, or even internal, like those beliefs we've been carrying around forever.
So it's not just about wanting a motorcycle after a breakup. It's a deeper thing, like yearning for authenticity, for self-expression. Almost like if everything I thought was true can change in a flash, then maybe it's time to really figure out what I want.
Exactly. And that desire for freedom might look different for everyone. For some, it's that physical adventure like Dr. Arya's motorcycle. For others, it could be exploring intellectually, getting creative, or even just setting boundaries in their relationships to have more space.
It's like those shocking moments. They can be a wake-up call, a reminder that life is short, and we shouldn't waste it living someone else's version of it.
And that brings us to a final question for you, the listener. What shocking moment in your life led to unexpected growth? Maybe it was a betrayal, a loss, a sudden change of plans, anything that really forced you to reevaluate things.
Did it awaken a new passion, a hidden strength? Did it make you realize you were capable of more than you thought? Or maybe it sparked a desire for something different, something more true to who you are.
And how did you respond? Did you embrace the unknown, even though it's scary? Or did you hold on to the familiar, even if it wasn't working anymore?
These are powerful questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's what makes this deep dive so impactful. It's not just about Dr. Arya. It's like he's holding up a mirror to our own experiences, our own shocking moments, and showing us the potential they hold.
If you want to dive deeper into these ideas, we encourage you to connect with Dr. Arya directly. You can find him on Instagram at dr.arya or visit his website, drr-arya.com.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, even when life throws you those curveballs, you can choose to learn, to grow, and to create a future that's even brighter than the one you thought you had.